NESGameMaker. So last time we left off setting up the Moblin and his states so that he could start doing some attacking for us, right? So we're basically just going to get right back into that. So let's get cracking. We got ourselves the information we set up. We wanted to check our player. We wanted to check some information about our player because the Moblin depends on the player for various information. Yes, as I said. So if the player exists, then make sure that we know how far away the player is and what direction we need to face in order to be facing the player. Otherwise, just set our image speed to 0 and pause us, So if the player has died, pause us so we stop trying to do things. If the player has gotten too far away, pause us so we stop trying to do things. But beyond that, yeah, nothing too interesting or anything. So yeah, using that information about how far away the player is, we can pause. Distant to player greater than 384, pause me. Doing our ground check as per usual. I could probably make that a script because we basically use it so often. But we have damage check. This enemy keep moving while damage. Unlike Bitbot, is that right? Let me go in my main code over here. Step event. Yes, this enemy keep moving while damaged, unlike Bitbot. So he has a little bit of different damage information. HP less than or equal to 0 and round frame timer equal to 0. So so basically we'll go into the iframes as normal, and if our HP has gone less than or equal to 0 and we're no longer in iframes, then kill me at that point and blow up some stuff with blow up explosion effects we'll get to eventually. State execution and timers. If damage flash timer does not equal -1, damage flash timer is equal to approach -1, etc., etc., etc. The same as all of our other ones. Same for here. If iframe timer does not equal -1, then iframe timer is approached to -1. And of course, shimmy timer ++, which we use over in the step event for our movement stuff. So we need to come back over here real quick. So we have the move, throwing in the dead state here. So we have move and dead state. Well, we need to change this into, we need to add an extra state. So come over here, other user events, add 2. Come here, copy, paste. We can delete this and turn you into a row state. And move throwing dead. All right, good. So let's take a look at the move state for this enemy here. So with the Moblin. All right. Let me grab all of our code and bring it in. Excellent. So collapse all that animation stuff. Image speed is equal to animation speed. Facing direction is the direction towards the player. To right, to left. Image X scale, direction to player, and frames and state ++. So very simple. Collisions and movement, same as normal. Speed fractions, same as normal, except I took out the X bit that I had. But yeah, these are kind of all works in progress as general. They change depending on how I feel like it. So we got to have states and execution, which are going to be our main setup. So we're going to ignore states for the moment. We're just going to focus on acceleration for the Moblin so we know how he moves. So if the player is far away, move towards him explicitly. So in other words, move towards him real fast. So we do ground acceleration ×2. If the distance to the player is greater than 96 pixels, then my current X speed is approach my current X speed towards walk speed times direction to player. So that tells me which direction to go again. And ground accel ×2. So 2 times the acceleration. Otherwise, if the distance to the player does not equal 0, so if I'm less than 96, but I am not 0, Then, otherwise, your X speed depends on the player pressing his gamepad because he reads the player's input. So that's actually something useful and unique, which we haven't done before. So let's take a look at that. So the current X speed will be equal to link side scrolling.x input does not equal 0. So we are using a ternary here, except this is a compound ternary because I have two statements in here that are being evaluated. So if the, and I actually started doing this surrounding the entire argument with parentheses to make it clear that this is all the argument. So anyways, the object link side scrolling, if his x input does not equal 0 and his state does not equal damaged, because when he's damaged, your x input is not changed or anything, so we don't want to be reading it while you're damaged. Then we want to approach my current, there we go. We want to approach my current x speed towards the walk speed times the sine of links side scrolling x input ground accel. So if link is pressing to the right, then we want to move towards the right. If link is pressing towards the left, we want to move towards the left by our normal ground accel. Stop doing that. Otherwise, we want to approach 0 because once we're close enough to the player to throw spears, we don't move any closer to him unless he actually presses the X input at that point. And of course, apply our X speed to our current X speed at this point to give us the lurpy effect. And also, we have this kind of shimmy on the spot if you're standing still. So if my current X speed is equal to 0, then I have this little thing, var even and var step. I came up with this because it worked all right for the most part. So let's see, is even shimmy timer div 64. So we take our shimmy timer and we divide it by 64 and see what the value is minus the remainder. So if shimmy timer is currently 128 div 64, the value that would be inputted there would be 2. Then the script is even evaluates that and sees is that an even number. If it is an even number, then it returns true. So if even, that'll be true. Var underscore step is equal to shimmy underscore timer mod 16 equals 0. So again, if it is the 16th, every 16 frames, so yeah, basically every 16 frames, this will be true. So if even and step, then applied x speed equals 1. So every once in a while we'll do that. Otherwise, if not even and step, then we go backwards by -1. So let's see, let's consider the case of a brand new Moblin enemy who is just standing there right next to the player. He would instantly say, oh, my shimmy timer is at 0. 0 div 64 is 0, which is even, I believe. And step shimmy timer mod 16, 0 mod 16 is 0, right? So we'd say that's true. So it'd say even and step. And that means we are supposed to move to the right by 1 pixel on that frame. Then you wait another 16 frames, and you would still have that 16 div 64, that's still 0. Now 16 mod 16, that's 0. So those would be both true again. And we'd add another +1, and so on and so forth up until we reach 64, at which point this will be 1 and it'll be odd. And now we start going the opposite direction. So we go back towards where we originated from at that point. And we keep doing that. Basically, we shimmy over the same 4 pixels, the same 4-pixel span throughout the entire area. Unlike, it's not like a sine wave where you sine wave back and forth. This is just a 4-pixel space. Well, I guess basically it is exactly a sine wave, except it's a sine wave over the span of 2 pixels. All right, I think we're good on there. Then we have apply gravity every frame, unlike with the player, so because we don't tightly control the movement of this enemy. So if he goes over a ledge, he basically gets gravity applied immediately. So there we go. All right. Let's go into the throwing state. This is important now because we want the main feature of the Moblin versus the other enemies is that he actually throws a projectile at the player as opposed to trying to hit them with their spear or just jump at them. So as I found out, he spends about 24 frames in the move state, then attempts to throw some spears. The amount of spears seem to be random with something like a 67% chance of 1, 23% chance of 2, and 10% chance of 3. And I'm just making those numbers up. I'm not sitting there long enough to come up with a statistically significant evaluation of the amount of spears being thrown at any given time. So yeah, I basically just came up with these numbers. That's kind of what it felt like. Then if frames in state. So now we say if my frames in state are greater than sec times 4, so 24 frames. So if I've been in the state for longer than 24 frames, and I'm close enough to the player to throw spears at him, then we want to go into the throwing state. Calculate the chance of each type of spear throw. So we calculate if we want to have this much, this much, or this much. And then we say, okay, now let's move over into the estate. And this is the amount of spear throws here. So let's actually bring in the code for the throw state so we can actually see what's going on here. All right, good. Yes. Control M. On we go. Let's start with our animations. So the image speed is 0 while you're in the throw state. And this is basically me setting up the animation as a sequence of sorts. Like I said before in the past, we have a little animation sequence I've set up here. So if the frames in state are less than 11, if I've been less frames in the state than 11, then put me at image index 0. If I've been in this state for less than 21 frames, put me at 1. If I've been in the state for less than 23, put me back to 0 again. So basically I have a pull back, a throw, then the hand goes back again. And after that, it goes to image index 2, whatever that is. I don't remember exactly. 0, 1, 2. Yeah. So we just come up with them as we go. Moblin throw. 0, 1, 2. 2 is when you have no spear. All right. Then on the 24th frame, then we create the spear at this point. The 24th frame in state, but it's the 23rd frame because 0 indexing and all that stuff, right? So frames of state is equal to 23. Then var underscore inst is equal to instance create layer at x, y minus 18. So it should be even with the spear in the animation. Effects Moblin spear projectile. And because we're keeping it very simple, we're giving it basic instructions. Direction, go towards the player with a degree offset of 20 or 160, so it sort of arches. A speed of 2.5 pixels per frame. An image X scale, again, towards the player. Gravity of 0.075. and damage is equal to your damage, and spear throws minus minus. So at that point, then we basically say, okay, well, we've thrown a spear, so what do we do next? And that would come back over into states. We'd say, okay, well, do we have more spear throws that we need to make? If we do, then we come back into the throw state, throw another spear, and so on and so forth until spear throws equals 0. Otherwise, we go back into the walk state at that point. But we'll come back to that in a second. So facing direction, again, towards the player. Image X scale, towards the player. And frames in state, plus plus. Keep that in mind. Collisions and movement, same as normal. Speed fractions, same as normal. Acceleration is the same as normal because he will move while he's in the throw state. So if the player has somehow managed to move far enough away, he'll start accelerating towards the player again, and he'll read your input, move towards or away from the player as he throws the spears. He does his shimmy on the spot thing and applies gravity. So this is all the exact same. So come back to our states. And like I said, throw state, if we're throwing again, restart the throw state. So frames in state is greater than or equal to 32, and spears throws is greater than 0. So if we haven't thrown all of our spears, subtract a spear throw, and then throw another one. Actually, I subtracted it right there, so I don't have to actually do that right here as well. So if I come into the state, I have, let's say, 1 spear throw, throw a spear, now I'm back down to 0, so next frame will come into here and be like, okay, well, what are we going to do next? Yeah, this doesn't really matter. It would put us at -1 spear throws, but -1 spear throw doesn't really matter because it is still less than 0, so. As for move state, so if frames in state is greater than or equal to 39, so in this case we were saying, okay, if we're greater than 32 and we need to throw a spear, then we will go back into the throw state. But if we don't have any more spears to throw, then this will not trigger. So once we get to 39 frames, then we go back to the normal move state at that point. All right, so that's everything for him. Let's check and make sure the dead state's right. Yep, it is. Same as normal. And let's make sure our draw state is correct. It is exactly right. Good. Don't we love it when we have our code set up so it's modular throughout a whole bunch of different enemies and stuff? Makes it so much easier, right? All right, let's close all this stuff here. And let me see, what time are we at? We are currently at 18 minutes, so we're almost done here. What do we got left? Oh, we got one more enemy over here, I believe. So we currently have Bit, Bot, the Moblin, and we have one more enemy, the Dealer. I pull him up over here. Let's see how fast we can get through this guy, or I don't know. Let me know I'm going to cut this episode short here. Let me know in the comments whether or not you guys prefer these as shorter, or if you prefer to go the full 30 minutes. I don't want to be taking up all your attention span on these things, because yeah. So let me know whether or not you like it shorter or longer, and more focused on one thing. So, all right, I'm just going to let Pass Me take it away with Patreon names at this point. So thank you, everybody, for watching. I'd like to thank my legacy Patreon supporters for their support during the NESGameMaker postseason hiatus. James Burton, JD Lowe, Suli, and Bezia. I'd, of course, also like to thank my current NES GameMaker Patreons for their support during the current NES GameMaker season. Kenneth Klein, Vladimir, Jamal, Fernando, Sergez, and Daniel. Your support helps make the NESGameMaker happen and helps support future projects from me. So until next time, remember to have good luck with your coding.